Okay, everyone, welcome back to continue on deliberations. Day 2, 21st of May. Thank you, everyone, for giving this your due time and consideration. I think it's very important that we don't entirely rush this process and allow questions and deliberation to take effect here. Councillors, we are starting back on topic 8, which is rates rise options. And so we have Alison here to talk to that.
Thank you, Lydia, and good morning, people. So I think we'll just go back a wee bit to what's on the reference there on 8.1. So as part of the consultation, we included the 3 options that are noted on the screen. I think based on some of the work and some of the conversations we had yesterday, and looking at that low 4.9 option, as a group, we're fairly comfortable that we could model those rates that sit below 4.9% that wouldn't trigger any special consultative process. I'm going to stop there, and I'm just going to hand over for questions.
Cool. Councillors, this is your opportunity to ask questions of Alison around the proposed resolution there. So first up is Sam.
Thank you, Alison. I'm really warmed to see that we've got 6.5%, 5.4%, 4.9%, or less. I reckon that one should be the one that we gun for. So what would or less look like?
So I think we just need to work through, so there was a few changes to what we made yesterday, so we just need to work through the modelling in there. And I think, as we noted as part of the consultation process, that's modelled on, the middle option from memory. So we need to completely model out that 4.9 or the number that sits below it. But we could be looking around the 4.5-ish mark.
Ooh.
I'm saying ish because we need to fully model it. And I think it's just worth noting as well, obviously we've listened to the feedback we've heard from the room here, and obviously the individuals that took the time to put the submissions in as well.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Alison. Elizabeth.
The 4.5-ish modelled, which departments, because you're saying that what we've voted on so far to date, well, the original concept was around the middle bracket. So which departments are you going to take more from to reduce to get down to the 4.5?
So I think if we go back to the first paper we covered yesterday, where we looked at some of the savings that we'd made beyond those prioritisation workshops. So some of those savings would sit in corporate functions, some of the other changes would be made in the delivery functions just based on the discussions that we've had to date.
Okay. There was quite a strong response from the community around being careful not to drop too much off the capital works and the delivery program. Will that come back to us, back to the governance table here, to have a bit of oversight over what the prioritisation looks like around capital works?
We're envisaging any changes to the capital programme beyond what's been discussed thus far.
Okay, thank you.
I think most of the projects that sit within our capital are now transport, and so we're really clear that is very important for us to deliver, and I think we heard strongly from our community that delivering on transport and those capital programs, especially our co-funded projects, are key. Cool. Sophie.
Morning, Alison.
Good morning.
So I guess, yeah, this sounds pretty positive. I'm just wondering how much of the modelling so far has taken into account things like the fuel crisis and unfunded mandates barrelling towards us. Just because I'm a bit wary that we go almost too low and then potentially have to borrow more, which nobody likes, or cut other things unanticipated. So just wondering how much leeway we're including in this.
I think the fuel crisis is largely sort of dependent on the capital programme, and I think Tim and Gareth is sitting in the corner have spoken to that. We could look at what bandwidth we've got in there and whether it would merit putting a contingency in. But I think in the reforms, we sort of spoke a wee bit to that yesterday morning as part of our first paper. So we're looking at potentially putting some more money back in to cover that. But I think overall, based on some of the changes, and certainly the direction before was we'll consult on these 3 models, but go away and look at what else we can save. So we're fairly confident now that we can get to a number that sits below the 4.9%, allowing for, Sophie, what you've said. But look, I mean, if the fuel crisis was to go absolutely crazy, we're not going to necessarily have that captured, because we don't want to budget and burden ratepayers with risks that we don't know are going to eventuate.
Yeah. I guess one hope would be that Audit New Zealand, for instance, might sort of go, well, we can see that this has been a moving target for everybody. So it's not like we're the only council that's going to be hit with either of those things, the unfunded mandates or the fuel
And
crisis.
I think every other council, in fact every other organisation across the country and the world just now, are under the same situation, that you budget based on what you think may happen, but you can't necessarily budget for worst case scenario on everything.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Sophie. Tracy?
I just wonder if this is a more info one, that we don't actually, because, I mean, I support going under 4.9, but it sounds to me like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
I think I understand what you're actually talking about. Look, the end number that we end up on is you decide this on the 30th of June when you adopt and strike the rate. I think what we're giving you an indication on this is that we've heard really clearly from our community a desire to go to 4.9 or lower. Our team have been working on a range of initiatives since we produced the draft, so we just haven't stopped looking at these savings, and I think what we're signalling today is that we think we can get there with all of the work that we've done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's what we're looking to do is to actually direct Alison and her team to complete that modelling. So noting that we did model on 5.4 because that is what we had at that point in time, recognising we're still working through, but we need to give the direction to model under the 4.9.
And I just sort of link you back to all the hard work you put in yesterday. Yeah, there were some changes with what was produced and proposed to what's actually ended out, and so that's why we're calling it an ish, because we actually need to take all of your guidance from yesterday and then to flow that back into our budgeting system. So hopefully that gives you the clarity and confidence.
Sarah?
Yeah, and I guess that's what we're looking for, is that clarity and confidence. So, appreciate the hard work of council staff as well in getting us down to the number that we've got to. And it will be great to move it from an ish to a really confident number in the coming weeks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Reece?
It's absolutely what's being called for, and we're listening. So I'm happy to move this.
Okay, is there... Oh yeah, I had Reece and Aaron. Everyone was jumping on this.
So now we can go to discussions as required.
Great, is there any discussion needed on the resolution? No? Oh look, I'm happy to speak to this. I think, this is something that we signalled with our community. We know that we were pushed for time and had the 5.4 as the indicative modelling in our annual plan. We've heard very strongly from our community. And so the 4.9 or less is the direction that we wish to give to staff to complete the modelling so that we can be confident in our numbers to bring that back for the 10th of June. So look, I think this is really positive and a great move, and goes to all the hard work that has gone in behind the scenes to continue to find savings and put them on the table, and the decisions that have been made yesterday and will be today as well. So look, I think it's great. Sam?
Yeah, I think it's really good that we're finding efficiencies and really stretching every dollar. I do want to note the submitters that wanted to retain a lot of the things that they enjoy in Selwyn, but while also writing 4.9% or less. And as my dear Nan used to say, you can't have the penny in the bun sometimes, but don't think of this as being the end of it. Just think of it as a little bit of a mark in time until we regroup.
I'd just like to say that I'm pleased it's gone down to, because it will help to offset some of the feeling about the Selwyn Water Limited number, and by us getting ours lower means that combined number is lower, and that's a good thing.
Denise.
Yeah, thanks, Alison. I'd love to see it go more towards the 4. Again, like Tracy, just because of the Selwyn Water Limited situation. But this is really good that we have followed what the submitters asked for, and yeah, definitely going in the right direction, so thank you.
Aaron.
Yeah, very positive that we're getting into a number with a 4 at the start, so that's great. It's important for everyone to realise that this is an ongoing process. No doubt efficiencies will continue to be sought through the year, but more importantly, we're going into the LTP, which is where there's some really big projects which give us a lot more scope to look at some more substantial savings over the longer term.
Sophie.
Yeah, just to note, we can't, obviously not ignoring any community sentiment, but I'm noting that there's a lot of positivity around the idea of a reset at LTP, and I just want to say, as far as I from my perspective, I think we'd be a bit naive to expect that the next LTP is anything like your usual LTP, just because things are changing. So there is absolutely no guarantee of recouping stuff, but we can do our best. It will be totally dependent on whatever the environment is at the time.
Cool. There being no other discussion, we have a mover and seconder. I'll put it to the vote. So everyone in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Call it carried. Thanks, team. We are over the page and topic 9, which is Upper Selwyn Huts. So on the table there for discussion is the licence fee and also the rubbish collection process. So we have Denise here to talk to the licence fee.
Kia ora, councillors. A recommendation from staff to councillors that it approves the adoption of the proposed $250 licence to occupy, recognising that that is plus the GST component within the licence fee. The staff recommendation to council is that it defers a decision on whether to include an administration fee in the licence fee until 2027-28. There's a rationale behind that, obviously, and if I could just speak to that briefly, that in 2025, the previous council confirmed some key decisions for the Upper Selwyn Huts, including a 30-year licence period, a year 20 review, and 10-yearly environmental assessments and updates. Council at that time also signalled an expectation of a proactive role in regularly sharing information and supporting a community-led approach to planning for and managing future land and environmental risks. The Upper Selwyn Huts does have some unique environmental and land management considerations due to its particular dock land location. The administration fee costing exercise to date has been limited to an estimate based on a single roll, an average hourly rate, and an approximation of 500 hours per annum. This approach is imprecise, as the actual work required is likely to span multiple functions and may also include some external costs. Further detailed costing we consider is required to identify the Upper Selwyn Hut specific activities that may form any administration fee, noting that such a fee would exclude standard operational services that are provided to all ratepayers. The costing investigation will support an informed council decision on whether to introduce an administration fee in 27-28. This approach recognises that with council's decision to adopt a 30-year licence term, it is appropriate for council to take a much longer term approach to managing Upper Selwyn Huts. It provides for a longer term licence arrangement that treats licence holders consistently with other ratepayers, while ensuring costs that are specific to Upper Selwyn huts are appropriately identified and allocated. It also reflects the incoming council's direction of a more proactive and coordinated council role, supporting informed decision-making, strengthening shared understanding of the environmental and land management risks, and enables effective longer-term management of the settlement.
Thank you, Denise. We'll go for any questions. I might just take them separately for Upper Selwyn Hutt. So we'll just talk about the licence fee. And so are there any questions on the licence fee? And first up, I have Elizabeth.
The $250 fee, you've talked about multiple functions, but what does that include? What is it covering? Because you've given us a broad brush stroke, but I'm just wanting a bit more detail. You've talked about the 10-year environmental assessments. To date, for what I've calculated, that we would be rating them at $240,000 for every 10 years. It seems to be quite a significant amount when we're only looking at bringing a consultant in once every 10 years for analysis. Potentially the work that you've talked about, the biodiversity work, that could be community-led, couldn't it? Working alongside other existing groups to reduce the cost and burden to the community.
I understand that you're referring to the administration fee component, and what I guess the staff position is we need to do some further work around that. It's not entirely clear what that monitoring role, what could be that is undertaken, what are some of the land management issues, and what is unique and specific to Upper Selwyn huts, and what is part of business as usual. And my apologies, but that work hasn't been undertaken to the depth necessary. But your point is noted. There is an intent to encourage a community-led role in some of that planning and activity.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, I was actually referencing the licence to occupy. So what is the cost breakdown of the licence to occupy costings?
And I'm going to have to defer to my finance colleagues around that, but I understand from those colleagues that I've worked with that we've worked with a number of comparable councils with similar licence to occupy type arrangements, and that the 250 plus GST sits well within the general range of costs that are used by councils. So that's what I understand about how this has been struck. Alison may want to add something to that, but I think that is consistent with the feedback. So I haven't got a detailed breakdown of the component costs, but rather the comparisons that have been made with comparable councils that have not dissimilar licensed to occupy arrangements.
I'll go to Alison if you need to add anything.
To be honest, I've got nothing much else to add from what Denise has said. It isn't necessarily a cost build-up for that. It is more of an equivalent market rate type thing that other councils charge for similar type environments.
Thank you. Next is Denise.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. I've taken some advice from the Huts residents, and there is some confusion about the administration fee and the right to occupy fee, and what both things are covering. There's also mention of a property manager, which they found that confusing because it was talked about as a caretaker, so they're not too sure what roles are covered there. So I think perhaps this might need some more information before we vote on it.
I think from a clarity point of view, the licence to occupy fee is the licence to place your house on the land that is dock reserve.
Okay.
And so that is the land occupation fee. I think what we heard clearly from the community through deliberations and previous meetings with them is that the administration fee, which hasn't got a lot of support from the community, didn't get a lot of support because we were trying to reset the relationship with the community, and to do that we wanted to allocate a resource that could be out in the community to talk to the community members and to facilitate relationships within council. It's not to duplicate the services that any ratepayer would get, but it's to be that point of contact around ensuring that some of those unique licence to occupy issues that exist can be dealt with from our property team's perspective. What we've heard is that we need to do, as Denise has identified, we need to do better analysis on what the actual need is, because with the new deed of licence and the clarity that we're getting from that and the feedback we've got from the community already may mitigate some of this role. And so we're going to take the next year to actually build up more evidence for council to then take back to the community in 12 months' time to then agree, do we need an additional resource to look after this special community, or do we, or what does that look like? What are the challenges now with the deed of licence that is in place? And it will be built more from evidence rather than anticipation.
Okay. So does that, the right to occupy fee, is that including the dock and the conservation expense as well?
Yeah, so that right to occupy is just the access to the land to site your dwelling. And we're not going to, our proposal is we defer the decision on charging an administration fee until LTP. And so we're just looking at that $250 licence to occupy fee being charged as part of the annual plan process.
Mm-hmm.
And then 91C is directing us to go and do that further work and analysis with the community.
Okay. So the admin fee, is that for the what they were calling a caretaker and you're calling a property manager?
It kind of, yeah. It's essentially, it's a modern day caretaker that gets out there and talks and sees what's going on. But until we've actually got the new licence in, we won't really know what that workload looks like. So we're proposing to take another year to do that.
Okay, so as a property manager, it's not someone who's going to go in and inspect properties, to clarify.
No.
Yeah.
No, it might be like a manager of the licenses.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Okay. Yep.
there's I think what we're trying to say is there's a lot more investigation
Yeah,
and work
yeah,
that
yeah.
needs to go into this, and there is no point in burdening someone with something that we actually don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
And so we need to do a lot more work with the new deed of licence and actually start to scope what might this look like, but do that alongside Upper Selwyn Huts residents, so that actually everyone has a very clear understanding of what this means, and you know, we take that consideration into our LTP.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Denise. Sam.
I would love to know that, so I appreciate the fact that the administration, caretaker, whatever we're calling that, is deferred in the short term. But I would like to know, could this role be utilised by one of the Huts residents? Because I'm all for, we're all about environmental sustainability and reducing our carbon footprint. Well, I'd rather a local run around with a lawnmower than ship somebody from the other side of Selwyn out there, reduce mileage costs and etc. I mean, is that a possibility? Or?
That can be included in what matters are considered as part of setting that fee.
Because I also think that might restore a bit of a bit of respect from the Hutties towards their own. Well, towards us is actually letting them be in charge of their own direction a little bit with this.
And that's what B and C are doing, is deferring this and scoping what does this actually look like, and do that alongside our Selwyn Huts residents, because if we can do that together, then we can actually scope what does this look like and investigate it further and better for a good outcome. And, you know, it might well be that the new deed of licence works really well and we might not need it.
Yeah, and I appreciate this because I feel like we've got some bridges to mend, and it starts with your first foundation stone. So thank you.
Aaron.
Thanks, I agree, Samuel. It's a good suggestion to look into. Steve mentioned the admin fee was a little bit around resetting the relationship. I personally don't think that the hut owners should own the cost of that. Selwyn District Council damaged the relationship. It's up to them to repair it off their own back. That said, the other aspects of what the admin fee might contribute to, or the caretaker role, that I think sits within a genuine cost remit. It'd be a little different to us charging the L2 committee for engaging with them, or a sports club with talking to them. I don't think that's where we want to go to. In terms of the property manager, I recall from the submissions, I think it may have been Carolee, she proposed that property manager is actually possibly appropriate for those who are renting their properties, in the sense of anybody who's renting a property throughout Selwyn, that there's certain duty of care that landlords are responsible for, and at the moment there's possibly not anyone keeping a good oversight of that, and that was where she thought possibly a property manager would be appropriate. I don't think there was any sense that a property manager looking at every property was anywhere that they were seeking to go, so I think that's important to be clear about that. The rubbish issue, I think I'm going to start to that because I'm on the
Aaron, I think we hold that
okay.
We've got to do a little bit more work around that, our deed of licence, and what requirements we might put on people in the community who are then renting their property out. And it has been feedback from the Upper Selwyn Huts community, so we'll probably take that in consideration once we get this new deed of licence in place.
Cool, thank you.
Sophie.
Kia ora. Yeah. So my question is around the work described in 9.1c. Could that potentially be something along the lines of a reserve management plan, given that it's a special purpose reserve? I'm just wondering how we formalise it and make sure that it fits within something that, a structure that we can refer back to and go, okay, this has been done rigorously. This is what we're going to continue with for the next 30 years.
That what you're saying can be incorporated into the thinking around that. It definitely did have an expectation that some of that environmental monitoring, that is a commitment, as well as some of the land management use implications, would be part of that consideration. So what you're saying just adds value to that consideration.
Because I'm just thinking around, obviously the sections that the hutties are renting for their for the huts, but there's a lot of other space around there, and it's kind of a bit like Castle Hill, which has a reserve management plan to deal with the land that is between the residences. So, yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to go after John.
Yeah, thank you. John.
Yeah, I suppose I'm concerned about sort of consistency across the district, that there are numerous properties within Selwyn that are rented out, and what degree of oversight does the council want to have? I know that the Selwyn Huts is probably a unique community, but we also have analogous, in my mind, Castle Hill, which is also fairly self-enclosed. And I just want to make sure that if we are going to extend the reach of local body authority to looking after landlords' interests and owners' interests, that we do it throughout the whole district.
Yeah, John, I think that's a point well made. It's a request that's actually come from the community, and so when we look at the options that come back to you for the long-term plan, I think we'll take that into consideration as what role and right does council have, noting that this is a specific, unique community on Dock Reserve that we administer. So there is a uniqueness to this relationship as well that we need to look after and acknowledge.
Elizabeth.
I got a lot. Coming back to that last point, Dock Reserve, the community believe they're on Crown land, not Dock Reserve. For the
It's
Dock
the same
Reserve
thing.
is a separate, but I guess they've had a fair look at it for a while with their previous legal dispute. So it's quite a separate piece of work, what the reserve is doing versus where their houses are, because they're not fundamentally accessing the reserve day to day, except maybe for a tiny community garden.
I think just to clarify, so yes, there is a domain, but within the entire community, it does sit on a dock reserve, which is Crown owned. We are the administering body, and that's the relationship. So the huts do sit on a reserve,
Okay.
but there is a domain that is separate for recreation that isn't going to ever have huts on it.
So my understanding around that every 10 years with the previous council, when we talked about that, that was really identifying the hazard around the water levels and the river management. Yeah. Are we extending that into other biodiversity and environmental factors?
Well, I think when I think back to the governing document for us now is the new deed of licence, and we've committed to reviewing that with the community after 20 years of that deed of licence being in place, and that 20-year review is to set it up for the next conversation with the next council at the time around what the future looks like. So there's plenty of time, and I think it's done in that context, Elizabeth. In terms of other operational requirements, I guess it's all laid out in the deed of licence. This will be coming back to you in early June for a look, and then we'll be sharing that feedback with the community. But the community have given us a real good steer about what they're looking for in that deed of licence, and we're working through that feedback at the moment.
Okay. The $250 fee is a 15% increase on their total rates bill, obviously. So for them, it sounds like a small amount, but they are paying substantial rates as well as the water component. So I just want to make it clear that if there's an option where, rather than just going for sort of standard market rates, if there's an option for us to consider an affordability factor here and have it as what actual costs are we paying for costs rather than just a standard rate, I would certainly appreciate looking into that scope around that. Are there, second question, do you want to talk to each one individually, or should I just carry on through the list? Yeah. Are there new things required in terms of compliance on dock land, or are they just things that haven't been factored in the past?
No, well, Denise?
I guess it would be fair to say that what was put into the annual plan submissions process predated the deed of licence. And so there's an opportunity to reconcile some of that. And it would be fair to say that some aspects of that compliance hadn't been given effect. But I would suggest more importantly is the fact that the previous council committed to an environmental assessment and the associated ongoing management with an indication that the community could lead a good portion of that. And so that's contributes to what we're talking about here.
Right, okay. The property manager, that was, as I think it was Aaron pointed out, Kirrily referenced that as in terms of just specifically those rental properties, and given that they're owner occupied predominantly down there, I don't think that they would envision needing property management for the entire community, but they would certainly welcome the option of what Wilshire suggested, which was to look internally whether there could be a caretaker for the simple mowing the lawns and that sort of thing. Would that be covered by the licence to occupy fee or the admin fee?
The admin fee.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm just on the reference to the deferring. I'll find that bit about the deference. So we're directing. Sorry, can someone help me out here? I'm not sure if I can find that on here.
The recommendation was to defer a decision on whether to include an administration fee in the licence fee until 2027-28.
Yeah. So the deference on their part was regarding the initial compliance for the deed of licence. I don't think they see that the compliance is an ongoing thing. It's more just the initial during the setup and working alongside the community to ensure. So how we go about that, I guess, we'll be working with the community and assessing that between now and the long-term plan. Yep. Okay.
Denise.
Oh, it was just to reply to John with the rental issue. I think it's come about because previously, if you owned the license, it was just for you and your family, and you couldn't even live there full time. And that's slowly changed over the years to the fact that people can now live there full time, and then now you can also rent them out. So I think what Kirali was suggesting was that for the ones that are rented out, because that's happened now, is that it would be good just for a property manager, like from, you know, a real estate agent company or whoever, just to manage those properties. It wasn't like, and so the other thing was the caretaker who manages just the whole
And
facility.
that is why B and C are phrased in the way that they are, is to investigate what
so
this
it's
looks
just
like.
to clarify sort of how that had come about. Thanks.
Tim, we're in, so are there any further questions?
No.
On the decision there? Is what we have in front of us is anyone willing to move the resolution? Sarah? Is there a seconder? Denise? Would you like any further discussion? I've got Tracy.
I'm just wondering if one of the issues here is that when these properties are rented out, are they done at a commercial rate? Because if they're done at a commercial rate, then the $5 a week licence to occupy fee would seem really, really reasonable compared to a commercial rental rate.
Elizabeth?
There's not very many who are rented out. It's predominantly owner occupied down there. I was hoping to propose, but obviously we've already moved it, that we could look at having the license to occupy based on actual cost rather than a market rate. The reason for that is, as I said before, they've got significant rates, costs, and significant water, what they pay down there, and that is our most vulnerable community. I think Denise raised a good point that potentially the licence fee was set up back in the day when it was a fishing hut village, and so they probably didn't have the market rates attached to it that they do now. So that would be something to worth consideration. If we now move to approve this at that price, can we bring that back in the long-term plan, the licence to occupy costs, or not?
So we considered fees and licence to occupy at every yearly budget, so long-term plan and plans, just like we're doing at the moment. So it is an annual consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Sophie?
Yeah, I'm going to just speak briefly in support of the motion. I think it starts to give effect to treating the huts more like most other communities. We all pay rates. We all pay water charges if we happen to be connected to water. And less than $5 a week to put a house on a patch of land that is Crown land is pretty damn cheap. And we do have the opportunity to revisit that if during the course of assessing things for B and C, then we find out that one or the other needs to be placed somewhere else, then we have the opportunity to revisit that next year as part of LTP.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Aaron?
In terms of Elizabeth's notion that we consider charging based on the actual costs, I think you would find that the holding costs of land would be significantly more than $5 a week, so be careful what you wish for. There are also schemes for rates relief which allows people in those situations to apply just like any other resident, which is the move that I think that community is wanting to be treated the same as everybody else. So I think that's worth considering. In terms of the property manager, I think John's right that we don't want to be, as Selwyn, taking on a property manager role. If there is a wish amongst the community for, I think it's around 20% of them are rentals, either maybe we could negotiate a bulk deal if they wanted to tap into a property manager that we can negotiate on their behalf, or otherwise they could opt in themselves. I think that's some further discussion to have.
Thanks, Aaron. Look, I mean, I agree. I think we start here. I think this is the most pragmatic way forward, to have the license to occupy, and actually we rescope this, what this looks like. We capture information as we travel along in the financial year, and reconsider this for our LTP. And I mean, there'll be movement in this, but this is the benefit of setting fees every year, is that we can change and adapt as we find more information. And so for me, this is the most pragmatic way forward, is to not charge the administration fee and to investigate alongside Upper Selwyn Huts residents what this looks like and what does this mean for them, and what are the things they might like this person to do. And, you know, you got to do the work before we put it on the table. So I think it was a great discussion to initially get up on the table and have, but I think we need to scope it more before we can actually look at it in the future. So look, I think this is good and I support this. We have a mover and a seconder, so we will go to the vote. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Against? Call it carried. Thank you. Next up, we will consider the rubbish and recycling bins. So invite Tim, and I think you've got Gareth there to talk to that as well. So welcome, Tim and Gareth. Happy to hand over to you both.
Thanks, Lydia. Good morning, councillors. This is an interesting one. We saved one of the best for last. The staff recommendation is the introduction of a targeted rate for the curbside removal of rubbish and recyclables at Upper Selwyn Huts. Also the eventual disestablishment of the communal rubbish bin at some point in the future, but there's quite a bit of detail here that's important. So I'm going to hand over to Gareth to take you through that.
Good morning, councillors and Mayor. Apologies, Andrew is away today, so I'll run through it. So submissions on waste services at Upper Selwyn Huts indicated support for improving rubbish and recycling management, including moving to per property bins and a targeted rate approach, as Tim's just mentioned. However, there is some strong sensitivity towards fairness and cost, particularly given the unique occupancy patterns of the huts. While submitters broadly support user pays principles and approved accountability and environmental outcomes, there's concern raised about the physical constraints, the frequency of use, and the appropriateness at some bins in some locations. There are spatial restrictions down at Selwyn Huts for truck movements if we go to bins, but there's a compromise for that. A key consideration for the deliberations, interesting one, saved for last, it is the shift from the current situation where there is a low, even no charge subsidised by the district for waste services down at the huts, now towards a full cost recovery model based on actual costs consistent with the district. The communal system, if the two options that were put forward is the retention of the communal system, now the full cost of the status quo of keeping that communal system would move to $202 per property, whereas a move to a per property bin approach based on the standard bin prices would see a cost of around $250 per annum, depending on what choices you make. Obviously, this represents an increase from the status quo. Overall, submissions support the principle of improving waste services and aligning with user pays, but obviously consideration is now required towards balancing equity across the district. Importantly, financial impacts on hut users, and the practical realities of the site, that how we determine the service model that we deliver there. That's me.
Thanks. We'll go for questions on this. Just one of the things that I wanted to understand, so with the communal bins at the moment, and there's not really any charges associated to that, will the charges for that go to every household in Upper Selwyn Huts? Whereas if we're looking at curbside recycling, there is an opt-in, opt-out space. So is communal compulsory for everybody to spread the cost?
That's my understanding is correct. I believe the communal charge was divvied up by across the hut owners, whereas if you go to the per property bins, there is still an option for you not to opt into the bins, but to if you're an occasional hut user, take your rubbish away with you.
Okay, thank you. First up, we've got Sam.
Morning, Gareth. Morning, Tim. The overwhelmingly common comment regarding this is it's great if you're at the end of Anderson Ave or Bruce Ave or alike, but if you're on the edge of Spackman Ave, there's concerns that you're going to be liberally smothered in rubbish bins. There's concerns around rodents and our normal refuse bags. The next concern is regarding if it was a communal bin, that a lot of our freedom camping sites, who are also in reserves, don't pay anything for the dumping of their rubbish, and unfortunately the surrounding community who like to throw their household trash in that as well. What sort of provisions have we made that it doesn't just become a giant amalgamation of 96 rubbish bins against the one road in and the one road out?
Sure, a few to unpack there. First of all, the rodent issue shouldn't. I'm making a presumption here that people will go for bins. If they go for bins, the rodent issue isn't an issue. If they go for bags, potentially in a rural location, that could become an issue. Accepted. The freedom camping one, I won't comment on that. Perhaps there's some work to do in that space where they potentially should pay. But in terms of the collection points, this is why, because there's no at-door collection, the consistency across the district with where there are a number of places across the district where there are communal collection points for bins. And
you okay?
Sorry, we're just signaling. Can we please get the resolution?
Okay.
On the screen?
There's a number of places across.
Something.
I thought that was me then. I thought the chief executive was giving me a message.
As you were, Gareth.
There's a number of locations, particularly that are en route but not at door en route.
Mm-hmm.
Now those locations they communally put their bins in those collection points for those short periods of time on collection day to be collected. They're not permanently at the end of your road. They're not there for a long period of time. But most importantly, if you're not collected at your door, you don't pay the amenity rate. And that's the case at Selwyn Huts. They won't pay the amenity rate. They'll only pay the bin rate.
Okay. Would it be possible that the access off Days Road to the reserve itself, would it be possible that we metalled that section, and so then Anderson Ave, Morehouse Ave, Billings Ave, Bruce Ave, that we could actually halve, so half that avenue puts their bins at that end, the other half puts it at that end, or alternatively, could they be placed in the reserve for the day and then taken back?
I haven't got
beautiful macrocarpa hedge there that would mean that everybody's not
I don't have the benefit of having a street map in front of me
I do.
to
Here,
see
look.
what you're talking about. I have quickly spoken to Andrew this morning. There has been work, there has been consideration. As I said, it's not dissimilar to some locations across the districts. They are confident that they will be able to get in and out and put the bins down the main area. What you're referring to there is starting to step into the capital workspace of making improvements to go and collect bins, and potentially there's a trial area. There's a trial here. If it doesn't work, then we have to consider something else.
Because I think it would be interesting to actually get some photos and bring the photos back of the day if we go ahead with bins of them being delivered. And so when you've got 96 rubbish bins across 500 metres, while still maintaining access, I think we can all agree that those huts are very close together, with limited access as it is. So
yeah, I know there's a few councillors that reside in Lincoln. For the councillors that reside in Lincoln, just look outside the Lincoln Retirement Village opposite the school on collection day, and that's right outside the primary school. It's managed, it's controlled, and it's collected. I guess the important thing here is it's about, for me, we're improving the service. Now, if we impose something which doesn't make an improvement, then yes, we've got to go back and look at that.
Cool.
And see whether we can make it work more efficiently and better for people.
Cool. And just in closing for my questionings, please engage with the hutties about what solutions they see best. I know that there were a few, quite a few submissions, but it wasn't the whole of the huts, and we might be able to find a really good solution because there's some clever clogs down there.
Look, certainly. I mean, we've got a good waste team here, good team of people, and I'm sure they'll be, more than willing to go down and talk to them and talk through options and work through some things.
Thank you, Gareth.
Elizabeth.
This might not be a question for you, Gareth. You might want to defer it to someone else. But can the rubbish bins on your rate bill, can it be split 3 ways? Because they have a strong interest in sharing bins to avoid the 96 bins, and because they don't generate enough waste as an individual and per household.
You're quite right. I'll probably need to defer that one to whoever does rating, but I will. This was a conversation as we were picking this up this morning, coming into it. We did talk about that, and I guess there could be a relationship with people in a hut that they, person A might take out a set of bins, and person B might strike a deal with person A, and they share the use, and that's personal between the people.
Yes, that's exactly right. But in terms of just making the payments easier, is there the option for one bin to be split across 3 different rating households?
No, it's listed in the report that, to be honest, it's creating more complexity to do that. And what you would be better to do is actually work with your neighbour and say, hey, I'll put it on my rates, let's make a deal. And if you contribute towards me, we'll cover that.
No, that's all right. It's just pretty much a yes or no. The community committee would be quite keen to have the ban of plastic bags as plastic bags for rubbish down there due to the concerns. Is that something we can add to the deed of licence? Is that appropriate, or would that just be leave it to the community committee to voice that amongst their community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if that's specifically a deed of licence issue, but it's probably covered under other parts of our waste management approach across the district. I think we can take that question away and come back with an answer on that one. But that probably feels more like a deed of licence issue.
And dependent, of course, on how many bins, but envisioning sharing will be a common thread. There are a couple of spots that have been identified by the committee to place the bins. The bin collection point at the moment is Spackman Ave. Does it matter what side of the road? You guys are happy with either side?
No, it's on the it's on the house side.
House side, yep, perfect. Okay, thank you.
The team, and that was part of the drop-in sessions that we held and took that information away and investigated. And it does need to be on the resident side.
Great, thank you. Support this, fantastic.
Aaron.
Thanks. This is obviously quite a complex issue, and it might be one that goes to the more info, I don't know. But my question is, with an opt-in system for bins, what proportion of people need to opt in to make it cost effective?
Well, I doubt it's one. The servicing cost and fuel costs alone. Look, incredibly good question. I don't know the answer to that without doing the sums.
No, well, that's a good one. Maybe that's a bit of information we should get before we even make a decision. Do a survey of every residency. Would you opt in if this was a situation? Because that'll be a big steer for us.
John.
Yeah, given that it's a unique community, I wonder if there's, and this is the question, not a wondering, about a bespoke solution. So looking at the residents and saying, well, what can you come up with? And maybe if there's an on-site caretaker, some sort of out-of-the-box thinking rather than, and I may have made a wrong assumption here, saying this is a collection service, how can we service your area?
I guess my quick initial response to that is that exists because they've got an opt-in, opt-out, and if Mr. Say caretaker, again, John, this was something else that we did throw around quickly this morning, is if person A owned a trailer and he wanted to provide some service to the community and they didn't want to opt in, those business opportunities will continue to exist. They're there. They're catered for.
Race.
Does the current community bin service not work?
The current communal bins are currently not charged for. And so the status quo can remain, so communal bins can remain, but we need to charge for them, which is the $202 per property.
Yeah, and just doing some research here, it was around $100 previously in the 2021. So, yeah, okay. No, I was just wondering, based on the reports, why it's been so focused on having to have the smaller bins and the community bins don't work.
Sophie.
Kia ora, team. This is quite an interesting discussion, isn't it? In terms of the bags, just to quickly mention, I had a quick look at the bylaw, and basically if you're an eligible property for a collection, that's an approved container. So we'd probably have to change the bylaw if we wanted to do that, not the deed of licence, which I think that bylaws come under a certain portfolio group if you're interested. But I think I'm probably reiterating the question that Lydia had. I just wanted to put numbers with it. So what we're proposing here is everybody pays the 202 for the communal bins, and if you choose to have an additional waste bin, then you pay that on top?
No.
Okay.
So the staff recommendation is to go to per property bins, and then that's your choice. And you are quite right about the bags. They are offered across the district, so they've got to be offered there. So you have your choice on refuse bag, 80 litre, 160 litre, and a recycling bin. Or option B is to continue with the status quo in terms of service, the communal bins, but to charge for it.
Okay. That's an interesting one because, yeah. Because just looking at the wording of it, if these are requested, the resident will be issued a rates invoice. So if the resident doesn't request a bin, they have to take care of it themselves. They have to deal with it by any other means themselves.
Yes.
Which
Correct.
could include just taking it and dumping it in somebody else's bin, down at Coast Ford, or taking it home, because obviously some of them go backwards and forwards to a home elsewhere. Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, the thing with Coast Ford is, it's freedom camping. It's not designed for this. It's designed for transient. That's why it's free. It's freedom camping under a completely different set of legislation. Yeah, thanks.
Denise.
I don't know. This might be more a question for Andrew. It's a shame he's not here. There's a lot of vulnerable people down there who didn't submit. Oh, this is just on another tangent. And 7 of the 10 that did live on Spackman Avenue, which is the one that's going to be most affected by the number of bins. The communal bins do seem to work at the moment, obviously, and then now they're going to pay more for them. There has been a comment with the communal bins, is there a way of doing recycling better? Or could they, and also people who don't live in the huts putting stuff in the communal bins. So is there a way that they could be locked and only residents have access to them, something like that? And with the recycling, I don't know, I'm asking.
Yes, probably is a question for Andrew, Denise. Look. I guess what you're talking about there is improvements and enhancements to the communal system if we retain the communal system.
Yeah.
And everything we do, as we talked earlier about some other aspects of the waste collection, everything we do there is we should always look to, if there's suggestions to improve, other ways of doing it, we'll continue to explore that. The conversation here is about the principle, I guess, of funding and servicing the waste service, but certainly at that level, locking bins, I'm not sure whether, and there was a suggestion a few years ago in terms of rural recycling units, I think it might have been the mayor, and we looked into various options across the district, and those options are still ongoing as well. I think Andrew's heavily involved in trying to find some solutions there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, well, this is probably for the other bit after the questions. It's not a question.
Okay. Yeah. I think, Sarah.
Super quick question. Does the council rubbish bin service go all the way down to Upper Selwyn Huts at the moment?
We must do in some capacity because the communal bins get emptied. The frequency of it, I'm not 100% on, but we obviously go there to empty the communal bins.
So this may or may not be in alignment with what we already do around. In what aspect? In what context? Just in terms of the number of times we're planning on picking up rubbish down at Upper Selwyn Huts versus, having trucks in the area already doing that service.
I would anticipate. I can't put my finger on that. I would anticipate we're probably doing weekly collection, and we will continue to do weekly collection if it was at curbside or communal.
Thank you.
Actually, Elizabeth just cleared up for me that residents en route already have rubbish collection, so the truck is heading that way. So it makes sense to just extend the route to Selwyn House. Aaron.
There's been a number churning around in my head, and I've finally landed on why it was. You said approximately $250 for the bin option, but I'm thinking we talked about the rubbish charges, and it was $172, I think, for a small red bin and $465 for a big red bin, and that's just the red bin, not recycling. So I'm wondering where the $250 may come from, or if maybe you need to come back to us with what the numbers look like.
So an 80 litre bin's $160, recycling bin's $92. I can complete that sentence if you want. A bag is $3.50, and a 240 is $477.
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few little things in the mix that might be good to get a sense of how many people would opt in for those various costs to see whether the service of bins would be cost effective. I suspect if we're talking 250, then maybe they might opt in. But if they're looking at it, well, actually, I need a big red bin, then that's 480. Yeah, your scenario changes. So I think we maybe just need a little bit more information.
I think, and this is what, so I've written down a series of things that have sort of popped up in this, and I think, in my view, I think this is something that needs to come back to us with a little bit more information. Like you say, around the costings, around the percentage of people that are likely to pick this up. Is it a viable service? But then also note, we've cleared up that the truck is already on the way, so it's not a special trip. So, part of that does actually make it viable. But I think instead of rushing this through without the right information, I think that we should be bringing this back to the 10th with a little bit more info.
Yeah, thanks, Lydia. Really happy to do that, and we thought that might be the outcome of this discussion. Also to note, we've got a paper coming to you on the 10th of June, which relating to waste minimisation consultation. So there could be an option there for you to direct us to include further consultation with the Selwyn Huts residents as part of that paper as well.
Yeah, thank you. Tracy.
Because we're looking to go down the more info line, I just thought this isn't a question, but the submissions were really close on this. It was as good as 50-50. Being at the public meeting on the annual plan and speaking to people in between then, the residents are genuinely 50-50. And it seems to me that the individual bin, and talking to them, as Elizabeth said, many of them are talking about sharing a bin and working out how to pay for that. And hearing Gareth talk about how if it doesn't work, we change it. There's a part of me that goes, yes, I know we're going to go to more info, but if we go to individual bins, then the community will sort that out amongst themselves, and that will be our survey of working out how that went, and if it doesn't work, we change it. Because we could also stick with the communal bin, but 50% of the people didn't want that. So there isn't an easy answer, but one of the way forwards to me is to choose one and monitor it and change it later if we need to. The fact is, as Elizabeth said, you've got people who don't live there permanently, you've got people who live there permanently, and you've got people who rent. So some have got bugger all rubbish. Haven't got much rubbish, and so haven't got much rubbish, so they take it with them. So a communal bin charge is money that they have to pay that they wouldn't otherwise pay. And some people do take some stuff to Coast Forward or intend to. So no easy answer. I'm actually not sure how much more information would help us to resolve that 50-50.
Okay. Maybe I have a question that might clear this up. Alison, if we defer this to more information, is this going to make it harder for you to model our rates number?
No. No, I mean, what was sort of suggested to Stephen, that sent an email to Denise as well, I think with Upper Selwyn Huts as a whole, there's a fair amount of questions and quite a bit to unpack. So sometime next week we'll get together as a group, just work through what that looks like, hoping it's not materially different, but we'll put a wee bit of contingency into the modelling to allow for potential changes.
Okay. Has anyone got any more questions on this, or are we looking to bring this back for more information? It's got Aaron.
I was about to move that we vote to bring more information back, but I'll throw a tangential thought in there that there might be a hybrid model of a communal bin for rubbish and wheelie bins for recycling, which seems to be a little separate issue that's not addressed at the moment. But I'll move the motion that we seek more information.
Okay. Is there a second to bring this back, John? Is there any further discussion? And I have Denise.
Oh, I was just going to throw in there's a lot of talk about neighbours and people sharing bins, but I've also had people contact me about how that might end up in disputes if people don't pay up to the other party. And then when you say that the plastic rubbish bag situation can be $3, and you probably can buy them as you go along. I suspect a lot of rubbish bags might occur. Having lived there myself, I would go for keeping the communal bins, but improving that system in some way, and not having 90 odd rubbish bins on Speckman Ave. It's not like Lincoln, the places that Gareth mentioned. It's a lot more confined. There's not space there. It was built 100 and odd years ago, and it's not designed for it, and there's not the space. That's just my thoughts. Thanks.
Cool. Elizabeth?
Yeah, well, if we come back for more information before we make the decision, I think that'd be a good way to go. The community committee can certainly hold a meeting with with the community down there, and weigh up all the things, because they'll be watching this recording, and they can weigh up all our discussions, and they can probably feed back into that date.
Agree. Sophie?
Yeah, I guess on the one hand, I'm kind of wondering how long it'll be, because we've got 3 alpine villages that have communal collections, and wondering how long it'll be before they go, oh, actually, we might want some bins too. But honestly, quite honestly, I mean, I'm happy to go for more information, but I think potentially we may need to include this in the conversation of what happens between now and the long-term plan, because we are, just like if you went and asked Rolleston, do you want to have a communal collection, or do you want to like this, that, there will never be a single solution that works for everybody. But if we're having a big all-up conversation about all of the things, extended conversation, because then perhaps this might be one of those things that gets included in there as well.
Yeah, so I think we've already signalled that our rubbish collection is probably going to be up for discussion in the LTP. So, that is going to branch over the whole district, I would say. Agreed.
Sort of feel with this here, the solutions are almost sitting in front of us. As Sophie just said, we've got 3 other areas that have got some sort of collection going on. As Reece said, like, what's the matter with the system in place at the moment, which we've answered is getting some sort of recovery. Probably respect Denise. She's lived there. She's had skin in the game. She knows the way it works and has a deep understanding of it. So we've got to take that on board. Permanence versus holiday owners is going to create a rift there. Of fortunately enough to sort of inherit a family batch over the years. At Christmas time, there's a lot of water that gets drunk there, so they bring in a separate bin for recycling the water bottles between Christmas and New Year. And I don't know if maybe talk to Denise about that. Like, that could be an idea over the Christmas New Year period with the other batch owners that come in who may not want a bin because they only take a bag of rubbish home in the weekend. Sounds like a cheap place to live.
Look, I think it needs due consideration, and we come back with some clearer information and really sort of distinguish between the 2 options of the status quo community bins and the alternative roadside collection. So we've got to move in a second for more information. We'll put that one to the vote, and so all those in favour of bringing this back for more information, hands up. Okay, call it carried. Thank you. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the topics there. There is an opportunity to talk about any other things that you want to come back for more information, or anything that you feel may have been missed in this in these decisions. And I don't know if any of you have got them, but I've picked up a couple along the way that I think we should consider here. I think we had missed out Kurita Whiti, so the Community Trust Fund, where they asked for strategic partnership. My recommendation would be that that one is deferred to the LTP, just to close that off. So we might need some resolutions on screen, please. No, this mayor is not as prepared as she normally is. But I think if we pop it up, then it's captured into this document, and it means that these people are getting a response back as well, just to make sure everything is clean and tidy through our annual plan process. So we can mark that one down. The other one that I had to come back for more information was actually in Alan Peacock's submission, and it was to open the Darfield pool and to explore what that would look like. Extended, so it was 2 weeks at either end. I have spoken to James about this, but bringing back some information of what would the costing look like to do that and the effect it may have. And so that was just a comeback for further information. The other one was exploring accessibility of our campgrounds that are closed with gates, and so exploring how they could be accessible for people, which I think needs some more information. And the other one was for staff to work with Selwyn Dog Training Club to identify an alternative site to get on with that work. And so there's kind of a series of resolutions there that I would like to propose. I can adjourn and type those up and give them to someone that could pop them on the screen, because I recognise working on the fly with what I'm saying, and I recognise I speak fast too, so good luck trying to capture anything I say in that. So there's a couple there. Are you happy if I adjourn and pop those up on the screen for consideration?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes. Okay, cool. We'll adjourn. Actually, give me 10 minutes. And if anyone has anything extra that they would like to propose, if they have that prepared as well, happy to receive that too. We've now got the resolutions up on screen, and you have also been emailed these, and if you can't see them, recognising it, it's a long way away. And so the purpose of these were some ones that I just noted through reading our submissions that weren't captured in the topics. And I just wanted to either clear some of them up or bring them back for more information on the 10th of June. And there are some there that I had promised you would come up on the table as well. So the first one that I've got there is Kuratawhiti, so you would have remembered they're the community trust. And I just think to clear that up, we'd cleared up a lot of the other funding request ones, but I think that we just need to consider that in the LTP because that is an ongoing commitment. And so that would be my recommendation if we take that one to the LTP. Happy to take any questions on these if you would like. Tracy.
It's not a question, if that's okay. It's to do with the Selwyn Dog Training Club. I've had contact with them and they're happy to put together some more detail around usage and numbers and who comes and all of that stuff that can feed in to that, so that so it would be worth staff sort of seeking that as a first step because they've got that in their head to provide.
Yeah, look, 100% it is, and that's why it's there to actually direct that work to happen, because if there are alternatives that could be made within the financial year that have implications for us, then we should explore those. The other one is the Darfield Pool, and so I just wanted more information on what that looked like to extend opening dates, and so potentially there could be an option to extend it to cover all of term 4. Out in Darfield. I know that with the upgrade to the pool, it's previously been talked about, but nothing has actually been brought to the table to have that discussion, and Melbourne Community Board member Alan Peacock had raised that as an item. Now, the other one was accessibility of campgrounds, and I know that there were, Calvin Co was a submitter on this, and I know there's been a challenge for some others in our community is for some of the campgrounds where the gates are locked, and how we could explore accessibility for people through the off-camping season, because they are still reserves and people still want to be able to use them. And the other one was LGNZ and Mayoral Forum budgets. I had promised you that they would come up onto the table, so that one we will bring back for the 10th of June. That will have the budgets and cost savings that we've identified through there up for discussion. And then the last one is 10.6, which actually is sort of closes everything off, so it directs staff to actually consider matters in the submissions and the ones that require a follow-up, so making sure that actually people that have submitted to us get a response back on the things that they have submitted for, so effectively it's a tidy up. I'm happy to take any questions you have on these ones. I think they're fairly straightforward, but first up is Elizabeth.
Campgrounds. Are we planning to do a district-wide look over of campgrounds at the moment? Just in general, there's obviously quite a lot of factors there. Is that something we're planning to do?
Look, if council wishes us to look at that, we can, but it won't be part of this annual plan process. If you want to formulate the scope of what you want us to do, then we can consider it and then come back to council with what that would look like, timing and cost.
Yep, sure.
I think, and I was thinking about the forward-looking stuff of this because I know it's a challenge for some in our community, is that in my view it would sit under the activity management plan that we would undertake for long-term planning, is that review.
The other question is, Kuratawhiti, if we're putting them in the LTP, then I would hope that we'd go back to them requesting far more in-depth information around their proposals, because they're quite strong financial decisions, and I think we'd need to really be all over that package.
Yeah, look, I think this is the same as the other resolutions that we have of proposing to move something to the long-term plan for decision making, noting that the work is undertaken to scope what that looks like over the next financial year before it actually makes it to LTP. Thank you. Sophie.
Yeah, 2 questions. One is on 10.2 for Darfield Pool. Is it agrees or directs? Because everything else is directs or notes. I'm just wondering, like, is there a reason why it says agrees?
Well, it was to bring back more information.
Okay.
On that one.
I actually need to. I'll just revise the wording on there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The other one is 10.3, and it's kind of implicit that this is only proposed for council campgrounds, but in theory it just says the accessibility of campgrounds. So is it possible to add in council managed campgrounds? Yeah, don't really want the other operators to think that we're going to go in and check their gates.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you. Sam.
Firstly, are we still live streamed?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Wonderful. Kurita Whiti their proposal was for some funding to do investigation into whether or not there was need for them to engage. I'm supportive of what they're proposing is almost filling in a now bit of a void that possibly we've made through cutting funding. But
Kurita Whiti were asking for funds to establish a Selwyn community trust fund, effectively, and I just don't know within our current budgets that we have funding associated to do that. They were looking to employ a person to then generate bequeaths, donations and whatnot in Selwyn, and actually I just think it's probably a little bit out of scope of our next financial year, but something that might be worth considering for an LTP.
Cool. And Selwyn Dog Training Club, is that a entity that is making profit, or is it a not-for-profit?
Not-for-profit.
It's a not-for-profit?
It's like a sports club, it's dog training.
Cool. Cool. And where are they currently? It's
at the dog park.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Race.
It was 10.2.
Okay. Big Red.
Just with the Darfield pool, there's obviously a good chunk of Darfield that are involved, that are keen for this to happen, which I in turn makes sense. How much work's actually involved in the background of this here to actually hit the go button on it, as opposed to just hitting the go button now?
I think it was something I'd raised yesterday with James, and what I was doing was allowing him more time to come back to us to actually scope this and say, here's exactly what this was cost, and here's the implications of doing that within existing budget that he has to work to. But I'm happy to hand to James if he wants to comment on that.
Yeah, Big Red, to answer your question, it's not that hard in terms of just going for it, but you'll have to consider the cost involved. So I can bring back those costs and maybe a couple of options, whether you want to extend it 2 weeks at each end, or you want to just pull it back into term 4, which would enable you to run us to run a full term of Learn to Swim, with Melbourne Swim School running their extending their operation as well. So there's a few options to consider. Ballpark figure about $9,000 a week in terms of additional operating costs.
Super. And then for the full term, how many additional weeks was that?
That'll be 5 additional weeks, or 4 as proposed up here. So you're looking at a $45,000 cost.
Super, beautiful. Thank you.
Sorry, I was wondering if we could add another that was from Melbourne Community Board / Alan Peacock regarding the resealing of the sealing continuation of Wards Road to enable a heavy goods bypass?
It won't be budgeted within our current.
Can we review at least what possibly that would look like in costings and then defer to long-term plan? Is that an option? I think it's a good idea.
I think it's, to be fair, I think it's something that Alan should raise through Melbourne Community Board at their board meetings and request that information back because he has that avenue in their board meetings to discuss the operations and the things that are happening within Melbourne. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. Aaron.
Don't think it needs another point, but off Samuel's point, somebody raised the idea of a route around the back of Lincoln as a bypass. So maybe not anything formal, but just a bit of advice to come back to us at some point, whether that's even feasible to consider.
Yeah. Noting we've got a pretty big work plan for LTP to work through. So, you know, we're focusing just on next financial year. So, you know, if anything like that was to happen, it needs to definitely be LTP space. Yeah. So.
Yeah, sorry to go again. 10.6 is a bit of a catch-all for all of those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering if you could clarify how we will be responding to those submitters. Do they get a response individually to themselves?
Yeah.
And do we get a collated sort of document showing what the responses are? And then if we want to go back and have a conversation with anybody or whatever.
I'll pass to the team, but the intent is that every submitter gets a response from council, which highlights the key decisions council have made following the consultation process. If there's any specific matters that have been identified within their submission that haven't been addressed by those 7 or 8 key decisions, then we'll also touch on that, and there'll be an invitation that if we've missed anything from them, that they can come back and ask and seek some clarification on council's position in terms of their specific submission. These will be all formally recorded, and I imagine they'll be formally available for councillors if you wish to review any of those submissions.
Cool, thank you.
Have I got all of that, team?
Yes, all 944 submitters will get a general response and all the consultation questions, and then we've identified 82 submitters where a specific response is warranted because of the requests that they've made, and we will, so staff will formulate those responses and we will circulate them around councillors.
Okay, so the ones who are getting, who are encompassed in the general, do they basically get a link to something?
They will get an email to them
Yep.
based on the email
And if
address
they've
they gave when they
requested
submitted.
post, will it be by post?
Yes, their preferred means of contact that they put on the form. Yes.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks. Sarah?
Just regarding the 20,000 that we budgeted in the Strategic Partnership Fund, I think we just need to make sure that we've got clarity that this is for potential new partners and it will not impact on our existing partnerships that we've got in place. I understand that, but I had one of those partners come to me last night saying, is our funding being cut? So just reassurance that that will go through to the long-term plan as per usual.
No decisions that we made yesterday on funding have taken away any funding from our current strategic partners because we have a 3-year agreement with them.
Thank you.
What we did was keep the, I don't want to say leftover because nothing's left over, but the funds that were unallocated in that strategic fund, and the funding panel will bring back to us at council recommendations of who to partner with and fund for a 1-year agreement, and then we will go into the review period for the LTP of who our strategic partners will be and how we allocate that funding.
Great, I think that clarity will be appreciated. Thank you.
No problem. Cool. I think these ones are all pretty straightforward. I'm happy to take those all as a batch resolution to approve if everyone's happy. So just noting Kuratawhiti for the LTP, Darfield Pool is to bring back more information, accessibility of campgrounds is directing staff to consider improvements of accessibility. Selwyn Dog Training Club is to direct staff to work with them to find an alternative site. LGNZ and Merrill Forum is to bring back to the 10th of June. And then staff responses is to tidy up and get all the responses to every submitter that submitted to us, which is good. Is there a mover for the batch that we've got there, John? Is there a seconder, Sam? Is there any further discussion needed on those? No? Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Against, call it carried. Thanks, team. Is there anything else that anyone needs to raise with this? There being none. We also have the resolutions that are in the paper, so we need to close those off. So that's tab 5 in diligent. And so there's 3 resolutions that are there on page 53. And so one is to receive the annual plan deliberations report. So we've worked our way through that report. The second is to receive and consider all submissions. So we are receiving 944 submissions. And then direct staff to finalise the annual plan, provide more information on the items in the deliberations matrix, and reserve the items for development in the long-term plan as indicated in the meeting. Is there a mover for those resolutions that we have? Is Sophie, and a seconder, Elizabeth. Is there any discussion needed? There being none, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Against, carried. Okay, team, that brings us to the end of our deliberations. So yeah, bring on the 10th of June. We'll have a bit more clarity on where we are. And look, I think for me this is a big thank you to all the work that has gone on in this. I think this is, in my view, one of the most successful annual plans that this council has had with engagement with our community. And that has not just come about easily. I know there's been a lot of work that has gone into that from councillors being out and about in their community, engaging, talking about this, sharing information, and also the hard work that's gone on behind the scenes to pull deliberations together and hearings and the plan and the modelling that is going to happen. And so for me it is a big thank you for the effort that has gone into getting us to this space, and I really look forward to the 10th of June. So thank you for all the hard work that's gone on and behind the scenes. So I will just close with karakia, unahia, tapo, kia wātia, ai, kua wātia. Thank you.